How's it going, guys? Rabbi Ashimeza here. Just to schmooze a little. I know I don't talk too much about what goes on in my life, and I'm an online personality. I teach Torah online, and that's really it when it comes to my religiosity. I mean, outside of living in an Orthodox community, just living a standard Orthodox existence, I don't claim to be firmer than anybody else. I never told people to attend or listen to my lectures because I'm more religious than somebody else. Not at all. You should appreciate what I bring to the table just because of that, because of the content that I bring, not because of who I claim to be. Heck, if you don't want to call me rabbi, don't call me rabbi. However, if you're in the habit of writing rabbis off and insulting them and trying to make their personal lives a living hell, perhaps you should also be in the business of dialoguing with these people first, giving over Musar properly, not just doing these drive-by insults. So, if you feel that I'm doing something wrong, I'm teaching something that's contrary to Judaism and or halacha, let's dialogue. And if you can't do it, I understand. Some people are very knowledgeable. They just don't like being recorded. They don't want their opinions out there forever. And that makes sense, because something you may believe today, you may not believe tomorrow. I mean, I've surely grown in the last few years. But in that case, then get your friend, get your rabbi. Say, hey, there's this loser online named Ashimeza who claims to have a correct understanding of Judaism. Why don't you challenge him and basically put him in his place? This is a challenge I've been making for a very long time. See, look, the truth is, I don't really have debates. I have interviews. And depending on how that interview goes, then I determine if to label it ultimately an interview or debate, i.e. in the title of the video. I think I'm very respectful in my discussions. I always give the people the benefit of the doubt. When they have a point, I acknowledge that they have a point. But the truth is, you know what, there's no point in attacking someone if you're not going to talk it out with them. Plain and simple. It's just decency, right? So consider this an invitation or a challenge. Debate Ashimeza. See, the thing is, there's many discussions I have with rabbis online that it's just that, a discussion. It's an interview. It's a dialogue. There is no debate. When the person has a point, the person has a point. All right. Now, if someone is just there to challenge what I believe, well, that's why they typically don't come out on top, because I don't play that game. I don't behave in such a manner. It's because I know it's very popular for people to say, well, this person's a real rabbi and this person's a fake rabbi. How dare you challenge this whole demagoguery? How dare you? Oh, he's a big rabbi. You know, all that falls away in my discussions because I break things down to bare bones and then we build it back up. I always ask people, let's first describe how we view Judaism and halakha and see if there's some agreement, because initially, before we can have any fruitful discussion, we have to see where we differ and then go from there. So the truth is, this rabbi online made a statement that he doesn't want to debate me because we essentially have different religions. Now that is ultimately a cop-out, but the truth is that we may, differ on fundamental parts of Judaism. The thing is, we're never really going to know unless we dialogue. And I think that people owe it to their audience that if they're going to belittle, especially the character of anyone they differ with, and I'll tell you, this guy, Yaron Reuven, has actually sent out a social hit squad on me. They have people posting pictures of my family online, putting my address online. I mean, now, this is not my first rodeo, okay? I've had many rabbis start a witch hunt on me many times. David Katz is a recent one, but I've had dozens of rabbis who, as a matter of fact, no longer teach online anymore, which is a case of David Katz. His movement doesn't exist anymore, but Ashimeza is still here. Ashimeza has been doing this. Now I'm speaking in the third person. I've been doing this for really over almost 20 years. And I think that one of the more constant voices online teaching Judaism, right? I mean, I haven't really shifted my opinions too much. It's still, in terms of how I teach halakha and what I consider legally binding, that hasn't changed. In terms of how I view other religions, look, the truth is, just dialoguing with people, rabbis, imams, pastors, it's going to get you to grow. I am pretty convinced that the average rabbi out there giving classes is not really convinced of the information he's giving over. That means he says, look, what I teach is the accepted opinion. When someone says that this is the accepted opinion, what they essentially are saying is that it doesn't really make sense to me. Perhaps if I would study it, I would come to different conclusions, but this is what my rabbis are teaching me. Fine, if they make that distinction, fine. The problem is they won't tell you that. They'll tell you that whatever is the accepted popular opinion is the truth. And we know that life doesn't function that way. There are things that we do because colloquially, right, in terms of our community, this is what's done. Make a distinction between things we do and what the halakha actually is. No, but to say that the rabbis, the modern day rabbis, create truth as they see fit, that if they say something by definition is true, then that's another discussion. All right? I clearly don't believe that. But I think that what has made me someone that people could count on is because how honest I strive to be. If something's not there, I'm not going to say it's there. However, I understand that as a community, we just kind of walk around being what's called tivrosh min hatzibur, going and doing our own thing publicly. I teach this. I tell people that if you live in a community, do what that community does. Okay. However, know the difference. On your Shabbos table, you can explain this is just a minhag. This is the actual halacha. Let's make a distinction, especially about things that are optional to believe. Now, this is something that people really should ask their rabbis, that is there anything in their arsenal of lectures that they would consider optional to believe? And they typically, I mean, the more fanatical they are, they'll say no. And that, I think, is a red flag that you may or should rethink following this individual anymore. But anyways, look, stop attacking me online. If you have a problem with Asher Meza, then have a discussion. Now, I've dialogued with hundreds of individuals online, with dozens of Orthodox rabbis. As a matter of fact, that's why people should listen to me in the first place, because I'm not into giving over monologues. Now, I do monologues. However, I'm into the dialogue because I want to be on the right path. And being that the reason, I mean, I hope you've chosen to become or remain Jewish is because you're also in that search for truth. Don't limit yourself with someone who has clearly checked their brains at the door. And the only way to find out if that's the case is by encouraging them to publicly challenge those that they disagree with. That's it. Have a dialogue. So this is your opportunity. I'm open, like I've always have been, to dialoguing with rabbis. Get your rabbi to have a discussion, have an interview, even a debate with Rabbi Asher Meza, and see how you do. Because till that happens, you're not going to impress my audience, and you're not going to impress those who are actually searching for truth. Unless you debate Asher Meza, you're always going to be beneath Asher Meza. That's just the way it is. Now, I wish I could point to someone else who could put you on the right track, because there are many other rabbis who know a lot more than I do. People who, heck, I've been in the game, 20-something years. There's rabbis who've been studying Torah 80 years. The reason I can't point you to anyone is because most rabbis don't debate. They just don't bother. Now, I bring something else to the table, and that's the fact that I proselytize. And it's interesting how in the last, in the last 8 years, the notion of proselytizing is not even an issue in Judaism. You know why? Because Asher Meza made it normative. Absolutely. I mean, ask Yaron Reuven, Rabbi Mizrahi, if they proselytize, I'm pretty sure they'll probably say, yeah, for sure, because it's been destigmatized. Why? Because I took all the heat in the beginning, right? Asher Meza proselytizing Gentiles. Heck, if it wasn't for Gentiles, these individuals wouldn't have a parnasa. They wouldn't be able to pay the bills, right? And last I heard, Yaron Reuven doesn't teach the 7 Noahide laws. So you essentially have rabbis online teaching Torah to a Gentile audience, and they're getting paid for it, which is, I mean, that's another topic. But just so you know why I'm so into dialoguing and other rabbis are not, right? Because they typically don't speak to people who disagree with them much, because they're not out to win anyone over to our belief system. I mentioned in a video a few days ago how the notion of kiruv is really a new idea. Chazal didn't believe or feel some sort of obligation to go out and win secular Jews back to Torah. Now, because I proselytize, I believe in winning everyone back to Torah, whether you have a Jewish pedigree or you don't. So this is why, by definition, I'm going to be more open to dialogue. But not that I'm the smartest guy out there or that someone else can't do the same. For sure they can do the same. They just don't bother to. Now, there are many rabbis who discuss things with me because it's really more of an interview and we just bounce ideas off of each other. It's really more of a virtual pilpul. And I think that's the best way for people to learn. So the invitation is still out there. However, in terms of decency, look, if you're going to attack anyone, especially to the level that they're attacking me now, which is really childish, so the thing is, I could take it. Okay, I mean, no one's going to intimidate me. But in terms of putting my address out there, putting pictures of my family out there, it shows that these individuals are really emulating their teacher very well, because these are the tactics that rabbis like Yaron Reuven use to silence their opposition, right? They're trying to get me to stop challenging him. And then, of course, if any rabbi makes a statement like, oh, well, I don't want to debate you because it's going to give you more publicity, the opposite is actually true. If you're able to, I guess in this case, give tochacha and musar properly, then I won't have an audience anymore, right? I.e., it'll make me less popular. No, the reason they say this is because ultimately, these people are not stupid. They acknowledge that they have more to lose than they have to gain. And but they are correct from that perspective, that when they actually lose, it's going to make me a lot more popular. And I'm ultimately, I mean, if their students are rational enough, I'm going to take his students away. Fine. But the truth is, my students are not his students. We teach a different type of Judaism. We teach a different message. I never mention Gehenna in my talks. I don't mention even Olam Haba. I give people the tools to learn how to decipher and understand halakha for themselves. And I try to give them a systematic theology to how our belief system works. That is something that I think anyone who knows any of my students could really attest to when they run into my students. That they're overly equipped to able to articulate how their religion functions, and even to tell you what a halakha is, what a minhag is, what's a law from the Torah, what's like ultimately fluff and disposable. Anyways, that's it. Instead of attacking Ashemeza, debate him. Debate Ashemeza. Now, I've been doing this for a pretty long time, and I think it'll be interesting. I mean, for sure, I'll learn, because I always do. The reason I think my students keep on coming back, it's because I'm well seasoned. I've spoken to a lot of rabbis, and I've learned a lot. Apart from what I learned in yeshiva, which wasn't really much. I mean, I spent around 4 years in yeshiva. I lived in Eretz Yisrael for a total of 5 years. I live and breathe Judaism. I mean, unfortunately, I wish that wasn't the case, right? I'm all for doing what's required and considering what's optional, right? I mean, I work for a living. I don't beg for money online. So it takes up a lot of my time, but I think that I'm providing a service that till today, there aren't too many rabbis out there who are at least open to discussing a lot of the topics that I discuss and I bring to the table. That being said, let me tell you a few rabbis that I encourage you to learn from. Not that I agree with anyone 100%. Right? This notion of a selech harav, people mistaken the notion that it means that you could never try to surpass your rabbi in learning. You can't challenge anything they teach. That's a twisted modern day notion. But I encourage people to learn from Rabbi David Bar Chaim. There's another rabbi who I admire very much. His name is Rabbi Chaim Ovadia. Again, I don't agree with probably, 40% of what he teaches, but these people actually know how to teach halakha in a systematic fashion. They don't walk around saying, well, believe in everything I say and everything my teacher taught because it was given on Mount Sinai in some way. Rabbi Yonatan Alevi seems like a swell guy, bright guy. Now, obviously, I'm really just going to offer you rabbis who are more rationally minded. But I encourage people to go to yutorah.org if you're looking for an alternative to the mystical MP3 sites, yutorah.org, which is the website of Yeshiva University. And there's a big, diverse set of rabbis to choose from, right? And they also don't agree on everything. It's clearly a given that people aren't going to agree on everything. But anyways, friends, stay tuned because there's more to come. TorahJudaism.com. And of course, you guys can make it a lot better if you could contribute discussions to it, interviews that could ultimately edify the Jewish people. Thank you.